joined by our good friend Karol Markowicz, the stage of South Florida. She is a New York Post columnist, also does the Karol Markowicz show on the Clay and Buck Podcast Network. We'll ask her a little more about that later. Karol, great to have you as always. You were just down at the U.S.-Mexico border, and I have a feeling that despite what the Associated Press and others, including this White House, want people to believe, it is not the most secure and even militarized border of all time. What's going on? What'd you see?
Hi, guys. Thanks so much for having me. Well, I came back feeling very, very negative about the future of our country because it is a disaster down there. And one of the kind of things that I want to tell people is that none of our walls or border, patrol things are working at all. In fact, if you are down there, I was in McAllen, Texas. There are three different walls. They call it George W. Bush's wall, Donald Trump's wall, Greg Abbott's wall. None of the walls are finished. They're all have large gaps. And the thing is that they're all on American soil. So that means both sides of the wall are the US. Our policy is if you get to America during the Joe Biden administration, you get processed. So once you've reached the wall, which in most cases you could simply walk around, you're already in the stage where we're going to process you as a potential refugee. Now, are these people refugees? I doubt it. I was a refugee to this country. We came to the US with like $100 and we had very specific reasons for being here, for coming, and it wasn't economic. And we had people in places to help us. What we're seeing at the border is these people dressed in like fabulous clothing with iPhones, and they're here not to work in agriculture like we're often told. We spoke to agricultural workers. They absolutely do not have any illegal immigrants working in their farms. And they say that basically the people that are coming don't want those kinds of jobs. They're too rural. They want to be in the cities. So a lot of the things that we're facing are just really scary because I don't see any action from the Biden administration to fix any of it.
Karol, I'm fast. I got so many questions for you here. But when you see, you're a mom, when you
Mhm.
see what happened in Athens and the way that Laken Riley has cut through, and we know Biden is talking later this afternoon at the border, Trump will as well, but I don't believe Joe Biden has spoken the name Laken Riley at all.
Mhm.
What are your thoughts on the degree to which that story has cut through and seems to have personified for many people the dangers that a wide open southern border has? And we talk a lot about moms and the way that they're going to respond. What are your thoughts when you see something like that and think about, I know you got 3 kids, I've got 3, an act of violence like that being perpetrated by a guy who should have never been here?
Well, it's two-pronged, right? So first of all, somebody who should have never been here and commits this heinous act, murders this girl. I think that, we have to say, why are we not vetting people who are coming to this country? Why are we letting in anybody? We have no idea who's coming in. We have no idea where they're going or what they're doing or what their point is to be here. But the second prong is that even if he was an American citizen, our legal system is such that you get arrested and you get out the same day, and there's very little repercussions for a lot of crimes in a lot of these places that have this far left DA thing going on where they're just not prosecuting crimes. I was in New York yesterday. There's the signs, oh, Times Square is a gun-free zone, yet they had an illegal immigrant shooting up a store recently. I guess he didn't see the sign. So we're doing crazy things. We're letting in people, we don't know who they are, but we're also not prosecuting any crimes, not just the crime of coming across our border illegally. But once you're here, you get to beat up police officers in Times Square, for example, and be let out the next day. This kind of system is the demise of our country. We can't go on this way.
Speaking to Karol Markowicz, and you should check out the Karol Markowicz podcast, which is in the Clay and Buck Network, for more about her journey down to the border. Karol, I'm wondering, did you get a chance to speak to Border Patrol? Was it only the Border Patrol union guys, because those who are active federal employees not in the union aren't allowed to talk to you? I've had that experience before. I'm just wondering, did you get to speak to the folks on the front lines?
Well, I spoke to somebody who's retired. He was the Border Patrol chief in Yuma, and his name is Chief Clem. He's on Fox quite often. But he's told me that what we don't understand about the border is that it is so much policy related, that it used to be that they would turn people away and say, you're not eligible for even a hearing. But now everybody gets a hearing. So it takes years and years. The ICE does not have the capacity to hold these people, so they end up letting them free into the country. Do they ever come back? Who knows? Maybe yes, maybe no, but it's going to be years before they have their court date. So it really is a story of policy. And the fact that, Joe Biden recently floated an executive order that could maybe make some real fixes to the border, it really shows that none of the bills that they propose in Congress, none of this really matters. It's the policy from the president. The fact that these numbers have gone up so significantly during the Biden administration is evidence that what the Trump administration was doing was completely different. And if we go back to those policies, we could see a major change at the border. Of course, the Biden administration has to appease his far left base, and so we're not seeing that happen.
If you were advising the Biden team, Karol, Buck and I like to play counter, go to the other side and try to advise them.
Sure.
They seem to be trying to run abortion. They seem to be trying to run Jan 6th. Obviously, the trip to the border is an acknowledgement that right now Republicans are winning on that issue, and they're trying to at least pretend that they're involved in that in some way. How do they sell Biden? What would you tell them is actually a compelling argument? Poll out today, Biden is losing in all 7 swing states, didn't have great numbers coming out of Michigan. His age is not getting any better. His mental acuity is certainly not going to improve. What do they have to sell at this point?
I think what the selling point from Democrats would be, and I don't think that they were ever right on the border. So, again, I'm playing the Democrat here, but is to say that, look, we wanted to allow people to come in and go through a process, and then that process was overrun. Who could see that coming? I mean, the fact that every single Democrat in 2020 raised their hand on the stage for free healthcare, even for illegal immigrants, obviously making us the health clinic for the whole wide world. To say that maybe they had lofty goals in terms of helping people come here, but then those goals ran into reality, and now we need to have some border protections, kind of talk down the far left from their insane positions of open borders and kind of show that we can't actually house the world. Point to like Bernie Sanders, who has said many times in history that we cannot simply take in every single person who wants to come into America. It's not feasible. So Biden needs to kind of get control of the conversation from the far left and say that we can't go on this way.
Karol, what's up next for you in the Karol Markowicz podcast, which is on this phenomenal podcast network, the Clay and Buck Network?
The network is just so good. Right. Yeah.
Yes. Fantastic.
On the Karol Markowicz show, we talk about living a better life and how to do that and all the ways that you can improve your situation on a daily basis. It comes out Mondays and Thursdays. Today, I have Nancy Rommelman on. She's a fantastic writer. On Monday, I've got the blog father, Insta pundit, Glenn Reynolds himself. And then a week from today, Thursday, I have Bethany Mandel, my co-author on the book Stolen Youth. It was a bestseller. It came out a year ago next Thursday. And we talk about what we've learned, what we've seen happen to children since then. We talk about, she's been canceled many, many times. So which one of her cancellations was her favorite and things like that. So listen up.
Karol, last question for you, and this is a very important one.
I feel like this is going to be a dig at the Cowboys.
Yeah, it's going to be a big one. It's a big one. How would you assess Buck Sexton and Mason Sexton, firearm training experts? Because I understand that you have become somewhat of a marksman thanks to one Buck and Mason Sexton, but the duo of Buck and Mason
Gene
Sexton.
Wick, if you didn't know
They are so fantastic. The Sexton brothers, I mean, really American heroes. They took my husband and I shooting at an open air shooting range in South Florida. We had the best time. I learned so much. I feel like I walked away from there having my skills improved so much, but also it was just such a fun day. And the Sextons are fantastic. I mean, I'm a big fan of Clay Travis and Buck Sexton. You guys are great.
We had to pry the AR out of Carol's husband's head. He was ready to keep going. He's like, "We're done." We're like,
Yeah.
"Shy, we've been out here for 4 hours, buddy." You know.
I bet, though, seriously, too, Carol, that a lot of Jewish people who might have had some antipathy towards firearms in the wake of October 7th and the fallout there, I bet the data
Yeah.
would reflect that Jewish ownership of guns has skyrocketed.
Well, I'm seeing this definitely anecdotally in my own life. I was always pro Second Amendment, but it took October 7th for me to go to the gun store and buy guns. So that change really is something. Also, one of my first times, maybe like early mid-October, going shooting after it happened. I'm in a shooting range in South Florida, and I got my Jewish star on, and this girl comes out of the shooting range, and she's got her Jewish star on, and we kind of give each other a nod, like, this is what we're doing, this is how we have to live. And look, we're lucky to be Americans. We're lucky to have that right. And we're lucky to have the ability to arm ourselves. And we absolutely should do it, whether you're Jewish or not.
I know Clay said last question, but when he does that, I like to throw in 3 or 4 more questions just to be difficult.
I do that sometimes, too.
Yeah. Clay's like, "This is the final thing," and then 5 minutes later, we're like, "Wait, hold on, we're
Yeah.
not done with you."
Yeah.
You talk about on your podcast, I think this is so good too, that there's things that people can do to make their lives better. You mentioned, and I
Mhm.
appreciate it, that I told people on your podcast when I was a guest, read at night. I'm just wondering if there's another one that you would want to throw into the mix right now. And then I was going to ask, I was going to put Clay on the hot spot too. Something, you have to be serious about it, Clay. It can't be,
Yeah.
watch more sports. Something that makes your
Right.
life, well, maybe that does make your life better actually. But Carol, what do you have for us?
Well, I have to tell you that a lot of people say the same one, and they all admit that they struggle with it, but it's get off your phone. Use your phone less, be on the internet
Mm.
less, just be less connected all the time. When you're with your family, be with your family. And I know these are, maybe it sounds cheesy, but it actually does help people to hear the advice. I think that that's really what the thing is, that when you tell people, look, I think, being on your phone less would be helpful to you. I think people need to hear it. I need to hear it sometimes, but I'd love to hear Clay's.
Carrie has had
Clay,
to
give us
remind
your
me.
best tip for living.
Wait, I want to hear Clay's best one, but I'll just add
Yeah,
into this. I have first of all, you're not supposed to put your cell phones on the table when people are eating, and a lot of people do this. Occasionally, I'll even do it. Now I'll do a
I do
cell
it.
phone sweep
Yeah.
and put them off from the table. I'm talking about sitting down for dinner,
Mm.
not, having a quick
Mhm.
bite for lunch or something when people are running to get to the office, but or running around the office or something. But taking the phones out of your pocket, out of your hand, and away from the dinner table, so at least everyone's present during dinner, and you're not
Yeah,
hearing, from the
that's
vibrations and
right.
stuff. Clay,
Mhm.
you buy into
Um,
this? And what do you have for
I
us?
100% buy into that, and I've been trying to limit how much time I use my phone. My thing would be from a parenting perspective, and I'm curious. I know Carol's got 3, I believe, as well. Um, Finding things that you can do with 1 or 2 of the kids solo with yourself to give them
Yeah,
your complete attention at some point in time. Because what I find is I've got 16, 13, and 9. Every day's kind of a frenzy with all of their activities. But if I can take
right.
one of them to go get pizza, or I can take one of them to go get ice cream, or something where they have my complete attention, that is, I think, invaluable. Even if it's just 45 minutes or an hour that you can pull out.
That's very good.
Yeah,
Clay
yeah,
Clay
for
coming
sure.
through on the spot here. Clay's not messing
I
around.
have you found that to be true too, Carol? I mean, with multiple kids, that if you can give one the focus for even if it's just an hour, it's invaluable.
Yeah. And they love it so much. They love being one-on-one with you. It's such a, benefit to them. Yeah, I also like to travel one-on-one with the kids. I haven't done it with my youngest yet. He's the sporty one, so we're gonna go see
Yeah.
some game or something sometime together. But yeah, I think the one-on-one time, they love it. I love it. It's so necessary, and it really gives them the attention that they need.
Fantastic. Karol Markowicz, everybody. Check out the Karol Markowicz
Thanks,
Show.
guys.
Subscribe to the Clay and Buck Podcast Network. You'll find it right in there, and look for her latest on the New York Post. Carol, thanks so much. As always, great to talk to you.
Thanks so much. Thank you.